everyone, I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com, and for today's post, I have a topic called Two Theories. So I'll go ahead with the question, and we'll see where it takes us. So the question was, hi Lynn, is it true that Machi Benessi was patient zero? And there is a link on my blog itself to a story that further talks about all the details. They go on to say the Chinese state-run newspaper Global Times ran a story claiming that the U.S. military cyclist was the source of the pandemic, or rather, Plandemic. On March 25th, the English-language newspaper published a story citing unknown U.S. conspiracy theorist George Webb, claiming that the beer bug was manufactured in the U.S. military lab and brought into China by a cyclist named Machi Benessi, who participated in the World Military Games in Wuhan in October. There's also reports that 5 sick U.S. Army officers might have been responsible for the spread of the beer bug to China during 2019 military World Games held in Wuhan during October 18th to 27th last year. The 5 were hospitalized in Wuhan for an unknown sickness, and very soon after, they were ferried back to the U.S. by a plane specially sent from Washington. What's the real story behind this, and were these 5 officers responsible? So, I had heard similar stories to this before, and then when someone asked me this, I thought, I've got to really focus on this. And as I did, I get the source of this was in Wuhan. I don't feel like it was brought to Wuhan. I think it was there already. Patient zero, and the release started in the city. And I see it was intentional. And the wet market was a good cover story that would be difficult to dispute, because when you go and evaluate the food market, how do you prove it? Either way, right? So you get a cover story that works, that fits your narrative. I've always seen that this beer bug was grown in a lab in Wuhan to later be used as a bioweapon for a war or to oppose a threat or enemies or any of that kind of stuff. The PTW, the powers that were, that I refer to a lot, I thought they gained access to the lab and the virus and intentionally released it to the public. It was to instill fear, it was to weaken the economy, create submission of power. There was a lot of different things going on here. I do get that the U.S. brought it there, and it was already there. I don't get that the U.S. brought it there. It was already there and being created within their own lab. Sorry, I'm trying to have my notes so I can keep my thoughts together here. China doesn't want to admit this to their people and already has a distaste for the U.S., so shifting and blame was a logical excuse for them. So basically, it was grown there, it was released there, it was intended for something totally different. It got out of control, it got released, and the easy story is to say, oh, well, the U.S. brought it here, because there's already a distaste between China and the U.S. as it goes. I mean, politically, they try to put on their face, but we all know the backstory behind it, that there's a lot of animosity there. So basically, China doesn't want to take ownership of this, making a weapon that's adversely affected the world, costing billions of dollars and thousands of lives. This would set them up to either owe people, and they don't want to owe anybody, or be in the middle of a war if they aren't already under the guise of the media-driven Plandemic, because I have this underlying feeling that there's already a lot more going on than what we even know is going on. So this is going to be really interesting to see, as China is working to absolve themselves of guilt and having a breach in their lab. They have a lot of answering to do within their own administration and their own issues. So regardless of the PTW's involvement, it was their own beer bug being grown, and they intended to use it. It might not have been intended this way, but regardless, they intended to have it for them. And I get it was to be used sooner versus later, and a more evil group beat them to it, basically. And that was all I have for this reading. I'd love to know your thoughts, what maybe you've heard, anything you'd like me to look at a little more. Please feel free to share them in the comments. I love this community that we have of collaboration, sharing ideas, and bouncing things off from one another. So please feel free to leave a comment, like me, share me, pass me along. All those things, they help me out so much. And if you get a second, check me out on Patreon. I realize that there's hard times for a lot of people out there, so by no means do I expect you to do that. But if you're capable and you'd like to, please feel free to check me out there as well. And again, I'm Lynn with Psychic Focus at psychicfocus.blogspot.com. Thank you. Bye.